Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to finish the diagram on the bottom of your photosynthesis. When we finish this diagram, you're going to see that will create a cycle. It's going to be part of the carbon-oxygen cycle, which again, you're part of, okay, because cellular respiration actually takes place in all of your cells within your body. So if we look at what we did the other day, we put the sun up in the left-hand corner because light energy has to be present in order for photosynthesis to occur, whether it's the sun or artificial lights in your house. So we had the light energy, which has to be present in order for photosynthesis to occur. And then we had the organelle. We shaded it green because chloroplasts contain the green pigment chlorophyll. And then I just put these coin-like structures in there. They represent the thylakoid membrane. So if you saw a diagram and it had little stacks of coin-like structures, oh, that looks like the chloroplast. So we've got the chloroplast, which is going to be found in autotrophs. That chloroplast takes in the reactants, carbon dioxide and water both, okay? And it is going to produce, again, in the presence of sunlight, it's going to produce glucose and oxygen. So what we need to do is we need to complete the part of the diagram that's going to go underneath the cellular respiration. And what I'd like you to do is to put a large cell. So I'm going to draw a large circle here. Okay, and the outside of that circle is going to be the cell membrane. So you want to label that. Okay, so that's our cell membrane. We are going to continue our arrows that we put the other day for oxygen and glucose. Actually, it doesn't look like we really put an arrow on the oxygen. We're going to just continue those arrows right on over. The glucose, okay, if we go up above at the reactants, remember we put glucose before oxygen, so we're going to start that arrow first because it's going to be involved in the reaction before the oxygen. The glucose is going to go straight into the cell, okay, and as soon as it crosses over that cell membrane, it's going to be in the cytoplasm. So I'm going to label cytoplasm. Remember, that's like the gel-like substance inside of the cell membrane. So the glucose is going to enter that. Once it enters the cytoplasm, it is going to be broken and it's going to release a small amount of energy. So small relative to a larger amount of energy that's going to be released later in the relationship. So broken, and it's the glucose. This is the arrow of the glucose. Broken and releases small amount of energy. There's not much room for this, okay? So that's going to take place first. The glucose is going to enter the cell, it's going to be broken, and it will release a small amount of energy. You are then going to have a rather long organelle, so it's elongated, and this is the mitochondria. So we're going to need to label this mitochondria. So that's the mitochondria. The broken pieces of glucose are going to continue, and they are going to continue into the mitochondria. Okay, so the glucose comes in, it's broken in the cytoplasm, releases a small amount of energy. Those broken pieces of glucose will then continue into the mitochondria, and this is when the oxygen over here, we're going to continue that arrow, and it actually comes into the mitochondria. And when the broken pieces of glucose and the oxygen combine, a large amount of energy is going to be released. So I'm going to just say, no, large of energy will be released. Large amount of energy will be released. Really running out of room here. The end product is going to be, what do you think is going to be released? CO2. CO2 is going to be released as well as water. And so again, when I said if you held a piece of glass up to your face and exhaled, you're going to see that water build up. CO2 is often going to be given off in your breath. So I will label both of those. And right here, if you want, we can oxygen and glucose. Let's write the formula for this one. This is C6H12O6. And that CO2 and water that's given off, okay, eventually it's going to enter into autotrophs again in the presence of that sunlight and the chloroplast. Glucose is going to be given off, and oxygen, which will both then be involved in cellular respiration. I'm going to open up this little flap of mine. Since we didn't have a lot of room to fill this in, you may want to, maybe we should number 1. Okay, so that's the cytoplasm where glucose is first broken and releases a small amount of energy. That's going to be in the cytoplasm. And then number 2, that's down here, the mitochondria. This is where oxygen combines with the broken glucose and releases a large amount of energy, very large amount of energy. And that's it for our foldable.